I'm Gary Nickerson.
And I'm Quinn Taggart.
And this is Outside My Window. And our guest in this segment, Mayor Pam Mood. Your Worship, welcome back to the podcast.
I'm always so excited to be here. You guys are the coolest.
Well, we appreciate that. I don't know about how cool we are, but we're here.
I think you are.
First of all, Mayor Mood, we hope that you and your family had good Christmas and New Year's. We haven't chatted for a bit.
Mm-hmm. We certainly did. It was a little bit different, but brand new granddaughter around, and it just makes things a little bit different. Lots of fun.
How many is that for you now?
That's 2. I have a 3-week-old now too.
Wow.
So I'm an experienced granny.
and I see you got you've got the older one in the kitchen already.
I do. Yeah, we have to learn to cook.
Well, there's nothing wrong with learning to cook. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Lots to talk about, Mayor Mood, and lots of positive things. So I want to start with the return of the Cat Ferry, and that opens up a whole lot of things. I know you're very, very excited about that. Just had some work completed on the new ferry terminal.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? If this were video, you'd see me doing a happy dance in my office. It's not a pretty thing. But we are so excited that the boat is actually returning. It's been far too long. One season is too long. Excited because we've done such a huge amount of work on the ferry terminal. Of course, that's been ongoing for the last couple of years, and just ready to welcome the visitors. When I say ready, we're eager to welcome them, but we're not ready yet. So there's lots of work to do between now and May to make sure that they get the best experience when they land here.
Now, we haven't seen an update recently on the state of the terminal building in Bar Harbor. Is that ready to go?
Yeah, that's ready to go. I think that's been ready to go for quite some time.
Excellent.
Ours has a couple more tweaks, but that's nothing big. Just get a couple extra things done, and both sides are good to go.
Now, not to take a poke at the federal government as it is, but I will take a poke at the federal government as it is. The municipality and some of the province has kicked in to kind of fix things up as far as the terminal building goes. Now, I grant it, the federal government did contribute, but is this not a federal government thing? Like the ferry link, should it not be a federal government thing?
Well, I'll kick with you, Quinn.
Okay.
So yes, it's absolutely 1,000%. This is, we're tremendously thankful that we have it, because it just, what it does for the economy can't be matched. But this is a federal link. This is not Yarmouth to Bar Harbor. This is not Nova Scotia to Maine. This is one country to another. It's international in scope. If you look at other ferries throughout the country, certainly throughout the province even, they're taken care of by the federal government. That deal stopped quite a few years back when, they kind of handed everything over to us, including the ferry terminal. But, we're thankful to have it, but there's much, much work to be done with the federal government on this, and pushing as hard as we can for them to, take ownership of what should be theirs in the first place. Never should a small municipal unit. I mean, we are a town of 7,000 people. I can say that now. It used to be 6,700, but this last census, woohoo! So right, we're always happy. I'll take 2 extra, but hundreds extra works. So yeah, lots of work to be done there.
One thing I wanted to bring up as well is the change in the government. We haven't really talked about that since it happened, but are you feeling comfortable with how the Houston government is approaching the ferry?
With regard to the Houston government, yes. I mean, obviously, it was a fight for a lot of years, about contracts and all those things, but they are supporting the ferry link. They understand the value it has economically. They also understand that this is not a young ferry. Right now, the impact on Nova Scotia is huge. People are spending money here. There's a lot of investment, properties, all those things. So yeah, they've been supportive of this, and we're thankful for that.
And the contract itself expires in what, 2026, if memory serves me correct?
Yep, it's a few more years. So, I mean, it's nobody wants a bad contract. But we don't know what it's, especially the owners. I mean, certainly Bay Ferries is looking for the best deal they can get, but it's not easy to go out there and just find any ship and have it come to Nova Scotia and go to Maine. I mean, there's so many moving parts that we're just thankful for what we have and the work Bay Ferries has put into this. Really grateful.
And certainly we know what happens when it gets yanked.
Yeah, it takes a toll. This is my third term as mayor. When I came in, the ferry wasn't running, and the NDP government had taken it away. Of course, we all know that story. And the town and the region we were on a downward spiral, and you don't recuperate from that overnight. You don't snap your fingers, land a ferry, and all of a sudden everything's great again. Economically, a nosedive takes, oh my gosh, 1,000 times the work to get us back to where we were than it does to send us in that downward spiral. So losing that ferry, it's like losing an entire industry. And we've seen, other towns and relatively small places, when you yank out an entire industry, boy, you're heading for rock bottom. So, it's not good. So we're glad to have it back.
No, absolutely, absolutely. It's a positive thing for everybody in the area, and like you say, not just Yarmouth. It's an entry point into the entire province, right? I mean, that's the whole thing.
Yes. Yeah, and I always say we're the welcome mat. We are the welcome mat for the entire province. So you're welcome.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. So, in thinking about tourism and having people come into the Yarmouth area and the like, visitor information center is going to ramp up. There's a lot of other knock-on effects that go along with this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with the return of the ferry, of course, the visitor information center, YASTA, which is our tourism agency. I mean, they are full-fledged. Neil McKenzie and his team doing everything they can to ensure that we're ready. But, from my perspective as a mayor and our council's perspective, we have to make sure that we can get people here and not have them driving out. And it's the small things that we do. So the work that has to be done is really difficult, because it's around making sure that within the hours that the ferry has set for them to depart and to arrive, that our restaurants are open, that our shops are open, that there's things for people to do that makes them say, you know what, I'm going to stay here for another couple days, because then they're staying in our fixed roof accommodations and they're eating in our restaurants, they're shopping in our stores, they're enjoying our experiences. All those pieces, throw them all in a pot and stir them up, and you've got economics 101 for this region. And we can't sit back and just hope for the best. It's going to take a concerted effort and make sure we got our best foot forward.
And I mean, certainly there's a lot of moving parts that go along with that. So you mentioned the Visitor Information Center. Are you looking to restarting the Mayor's Tea again?
Well, we have to have the Mayor's Tea. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I think, yeah, that's been going on for over half a century. So
that's a hot ticket. That's a hot ticket to have.
It really is, and it's the funniest thing, because I have to give a big shout out to the volunteers that come out, the local church groups and other seniors groups, and they cook like nobody's business. I mean, it's just the spread they put on, the homemade brown bread and cinnamon rolls, and they're making fresh lemonade, and they just put on a huge spread. But when the visitors come in and they can actually meet the mayor, it's a big deal for people. I mean, I'm just me, but it's a big deal, because you just can't go to other cities and have tea with the mayor. So it's a big deal, and we get to meet people from all over the world. It's just so much fun.
And the locals can participate as well. This is not just for income.
Oh no, we got lots of locals come down. Some of the nursery schools bring their kids down. They say hello, they speak to the mayor. I give them, one of the town pins. They get in the line and they get their little treats, and we have photo ops and things like that. But it's just it's one more thing to say, we're open. We're so glad you're here. All those pieces put together mean something.
There's a cost to doing business, whether it's a hardware store, a restaurant, or a ferry service. But it's the benefits, the economic benefits, and you know as well as anyone. I've seen the numbers year after year. Can you sort of talk about that, Pam, and the fact that this is not Yarmouth ferry service. This is a Nova Scotia ferry service, and it brings some huge benefits to this province.
Yeah, yeah, Gary, you're absolutely right. This is not, $10,000. This is tens of millions of dollars put into the economy here. And when people are spending money, don't forget they're taxed on that. I mean, let's go right down to the bare basics. If you buy gas, or if you buy, a meal, whatever, you're taxed on that. And so those monies go back into the coffers. They allow us to do, some of the great things that we do. I would also speak to the critical mass piece. So it's not, it's so important, and I'll have to start getting this message out. It'll be sort of like another all hands on deck 2.0.
Well, that worked well for you last time, Mayor Mood. So I think 2.0 will be just as good.
I think so, and I have to say I am still, 7 or 8 years later, still speaking across, Canada and into the U.S. on that initiative, that it worked so well, but it was all the community. But this is about critical mass as well. So when you travel, you don't stop to eat because there's one restaurant. You stop and you linger in places where there's a bunch of restaurants open. Where there are a bunch of stores open. I don't want to go. It's why we go to the mall sometimes, we go in because there's lots of shops. So we have to understand that really, all hands have to be on deck. When one store closes, it's like you break the link. And I know it's hard. And Gary, you just basically said it. Like there's a cost to doing business. I mean, you have to stay open, you have to pay staff, you have to, do something to draw the people in there. But if we all do this together and we do it well, then the benefits far outweigh, and people go back and talk about Yarmouth and how much fun they had, and the food was great and all those pieces. And that's how we get our visitors.
And the look and the feel of the town is part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And we've ran as a town the facade program, which has helped with the look and the feel downtown. Can you talk a little bit about how that program came about and the success?
Yeah. So I'll just start by saying this. I don't think anybody that lives here or has visited here forgets that 10 years ago, it was like death row downtown. It was awful. It was scary. I was a new mayor. I was getting phone calls from, basically seniors who said, I'm afraid to go downtown. Like, it looks awful. It feels awful. There's not enough people there for me to feel safe. And that's no way to draw people. I think we all know when we travel, we want to go to those places that are colorful and inviting and fun and full of life. And so we created that. And, how do you, I guess it's a standing joke in town, because they said, if you're going to do the facade program, for heaven's sakes, don't paint anything beige or gray, because the mayor will come behind you with a paintbrush, because we're actor color, and I can tell you that right now, like a lot of the buildings on the main street, and I'm going to use Richard LeBlanc's, we call them the triplets. I mean, those buildings look like they should have been torn down. They were decrepit. They were dirty, filthy, stuff in the windows. There was no need of it, first of all, because nobody has to be dirty. But look what he's done. And those 3 buildings are now icons. You see them all over Canada, used as an example of how to turn things around with a facade program. And that is, it's easy as a council to say, yes, we'll give you money. But this is completely in the hands of the Facade Society. they say who can have the money. They go through the process. Colorful, bright, interesting. It's changed the downtown. And I say this again every time I'm on, but people will always say the mayor, a crazy mayor, thinks paint will fix everything. Well, guess what? It did. It really did. It turned things around. And I am not, as an investor, going to invest in a business when the neighbors look horrific. I'm not going to do that. It's like you don't buy a house in between two houses that look like they're falling down. You want to be where things are clean and bright and uplifting, and that's what we've tried to create, and we've been hugely successful at that. And that is kudos to the Facade Society, because they've done an amazing amount of work.
And a side effect of that, I remember seeing a post recently looking for proposals on murals.
Oh, yes. I'm so excited about this one, because that's the other thing. I get all wound up about this stuff, because it's what draws people in. It's not about, I live in town and I want to go for a drive downtown and look at the murals. It's about bringing visitors in, and about the locals feeling great about where they live. So, if you travel anywhere at all in the world, you see, the walls, any empty space is covered with bright, colorful, fun, murals. And so we set up the murals team. The Facade Society is going to do some of that work, and council will invest, and we'll see what we get out of that. But we've got many spaces that could just use a little touch of color, and off we go. We could become even more interesting.
We've got a couple of murals downtown that are iconic in their own right. Of course, the one on the side of PharmaSave and so on. But what are you expecting to come from this? Are you entertaining ideas, more towards the seafaring side of things, or have you got a theme in mind?
No, I don't think there is a theme, and it's not. I will say this, which is the exciting part. This isn't a council decision. This is in the hands of the Facade and Mural Society. They will accept submissions. I can say that I don't think that they want everything to be all seafaring. You know what? We live on the ocean. We've got that. So how can you add interest? So the students did one on the side of on Brown Street there with all the panels.
Yes.
And it's the octopus's garden, but it's not, it's different, it's bright and colorful, and folks like to look at that. Daniel Mahood is an amazing murals artist. She did one she did two on Water Street. So the latest one she did was the lady underwater with the waves in her hair and on that door. And the first one she did down there was for my daughter Julie when she opened her business.
Right.
Down there, and she did the floral one, which is again a little bit different, but people are stopping. We're looking for placemaking, so we want people to find places to take photos and share those, and it creates even more interest. So we're really excited about the potential here.
Now we've talked at length a couple of times about social media being a bit of a double-edged sword, but in a case of all of the good things that are going on in our area, do you see social media playing a bigger part in that?
I actually do. I'm a big fan of the democracy, the whole democratic process. So, you have a right to go on there and say whatever you want, good, bad, or ugly. But I also have a right, to ignore it, or, to, walk away from
walk away. Absolutely.
Exactly. But if you can find even a snippet of good in it. So sometimes folks don't know how to express what they're thinking, and so it comes off as angry. But I read the comments, and if you can take even a nugget of I don't know how to phrase this, but if you can take a little bit of a nugget that helps you do things a little bit better, then it's a win-win for everybody. It's so, I mean, social media, if you're sitting behind the keyboard just trashing everything, that's no good. We don't need that. You have a right to do it, but otherwise, people are supportive, and we're loving this. I wish I had one of those timeline videos that started 10 years ago with the downtown, and one of those that played over like about 3 minutes, so that people could see the difference. And it's not just the difference in the buildings and the facades; it's the difference in the amount of people that are downtown. They're hanging out downtown now because it's a safe, fun place to be. That's the goal.
And certainly, I mean, it's nice to have a little spit and polish.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, I'm a traveler, and we are trying to attract travelers here. I'm not going to hang out in a place that just doesn't feel safe or doesn't look good. I'm not. I'm going to go to where it's vibrant and colorful and fun, where the businesses are saying, by virtue of the colors they put on their buildings, I care about you and I want you to be here. Come on in, let's have some fun.
The improvements, Pam, to the town of Yarmouth, both physically and aesthetically, have been, to me, a very planned approach, right?
Yes.
So,
Mhm.
things that you mentioned, the murals and the facade program, the bump boats, the lobster cars, all of that. Can you talk about communities in bloom? Because that's a big thing, and the town has done very well.
Absolutely. Communities in Bloom is, I mean, I can hardly come up with the words. They have done such amazing work. The excitement within the committee itself is tangible. You can feel their excitement and their desire just to make their community better. It's I guess it's the committee that every mayor wants to have, and we have it. So I'm really pumped about that. But we continue to win awards, and they're not small awards. A couple years ago, remember, we hosted the world, like we did the national Communities in Bloom conference, and we had Hungary and Italy, and I mean, the entire world was in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia, the smallest town to ever host an event like that, and they absolutely loved it. It's not just about flowers, it's about, how do you do other things. So, we have a tree inventory, uh, things like that. It's just it's huge, and I hope people are paying attention to what Communities in Bloom are doing. It's one thing for town staff and the Communities in Bloom committee to come together and plant flowers and do all those things, which beautifies the town. But we are an award-winning town because of the work they do.
And as you mentioned, these are not small awards. These are national and international awards.
In a nutshell, we've won awards, and the rest of the world knows it. And again, Germany and Ireland and Italy and Hungary, like just the rest of the world is taking notice of little Yarmouth, Nova Scotia. And it's because of the commitment of these individuals that, that sit together, and they keep coming up with ideas. What else can we do, for the town? What else can we put on the table? And they do it, and we win awards. It's just, this is the way it's supposed to work.
And we showed them how to party.
Oh gosh, yes. Listen. Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I mean, that's worth mentioning too. We are among what I would call the best hosts on this planet. We absolutely are. It's funny. Remember, we had the World Junior A's, and then they came back,
Yes.
and I was standing on the steps of a local restaurant, and I saw this guy with a Winnipeg Jets jacket on, and I said, "Oh, you're here for the hockey tournament?" He said, "Well, it's funny that you would notice that." He said, "I'm looking for somebody." I said, "Who are you looking for?" He said, I'm looking for The lobster queen. She's the mayor. I said, but the year before, there was a whole bunch of scouts, the Pittsburgh Penguin Scouts and Montreal Canadiens, and they were sitting at the rink, and they said, "Excuse me, Mayor, you're the one that dropped the puck. Do you know where we can get lobster? We hear there's good lobster." And anyway, we piled them in a van. I made them go out to a lobster pound and pick up their own lobster, brought them back to the house, and we cooked the lobster outside and made them, shell the lobster by themselves. They had such a good time that they told the rest of the teams, and that's how you do business. You just be yourself and be inviting, and the rest of the world wants to be here.
There's nothing like a down home kitchen party.
That's right. That's what we're all about.
Want to ask you about rodents with hooves. Oh, I got to tell you, and I know this is a serious situation, but I did get a chuckle out of that. They have become a real serious nuisance, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. So so let me say this, because you caught my post. I couldn't help myself. I tried to be diplomatic, but there I was crossing the line. There's two sides to this. And for the people that think we're invading their territory and they're cute and I like to feed them, I totally respect that. The other side of the story is that they don't belong in town. We've already had one death. One death is one too many. So somebody died because there's deer in town. I've had people call me and say, the funniest one was a lady that called me and just really peeled me out because I kept saying we've got to get rid of the deer because they have ticks and Lyme disease and all those things. And it wasn't pretty, the conversation, but she called me up 3 months later and one of her kids had Lyme disease. And that just made me really, really sad. I said, my gosh, like it's the deer are in town. They're riddled with, we don't know what, including disease and the ticks. They get on the dogs come in the house. The children are in the house. Like we're just messing with something here that we don't have to. And they just don't belong here. There's a lot of wooded territory somewhere else, not in town.
Now, two things from this, and I'll take one, and Gary will take the other. But I haven't seen or followed through on the new bylaw that you put in place or in the process of putting in place about feeding wild animals in general, I guess. Has that passed, or is that still in progress?
Oh no, we passed
They
it.
passed that. Okay.
Yeah, you don't want to get caught feeding. Yeah, you don't want to get caught feeding a deer because it's $1,000 fine. The problem is you have to catch somebody doing it. So, but at least it's there. Folks are.
That's why I haven't seen anybody post to social media lately that they're hand feeding the deer. Right. Okay, that makes sense now.
At least it stops some social media posts. But oh my gosh, you guys crack me up. But it's town and we're closed quarters. So the fact that I think it's okay to feed the deer is one thing. But when I feed them, their droppings are on the neighbors' lawns, and it creates too much havoc for the neighbors, and we have to be respectful of each other and mindful that we have neighbors in close quarters in town. So, we just have to have a little bit of respect for each other.
I live in the county, and hey, raccoons are cute, but I don't want them in my garbage bin.
Exactly.
And I sure as heck am not going to try to hand feed one out in the backyard.
Yeah.
Right. So they're wild animals. They need to be treated as such.
That's right. You know what, Quinn? I remember growing up, Mom used to put us in the carriage and, just kind of in the side yard there. She kept an eye on, and you grew up a block away from me. So your mom probably did the same thing, but we were in the carriage outside. Like, you can't do that anymore.
No.
Just because we don't know what's in the backyard. And I looked out on my deck, and I'm right in the middle of town. I looked on my deck one day, and there were 3 raccoons in my wisteria bush. And one of them, the whole side of his face was pussy and yellow and green. And I said, my goodness, like what if a child is outside and doesn't know the difference, you know?
Yeah.
Like that's just dangerous. So,
I know. I
yeah.
mean, where we are in Belleville, you've got coyotes. You can hear them. You don't
Yes.
usually see them, but you hear them.
Yeah.
We get raccoons at least a couple of times a year coming into the yard,
Uh,
going after the bird feeder and stuff. And when we
yeah.
plant the garden in the back 40, we get deer that'll come in and
Yes.
try to eat everything that we're trying to plant and grow.
Yeah.
But again, they're wild animals. These are wild animals.
They are. They are. Yes.
It doesn't seem like the Department of Lands and Forests, what used to be Department of Natural Resources, has been a whole lot of
Mhm.
help. Did not they ask the town, what, a year or so ago, to go out and count deer pellets?
Yeah. So that they would know there was an issue. And I said, I don't have to count how many times a deer does its job to know there's an issue. I mean,
All they had to do was float through Facebook. Everybody posts the pictures.
exactly, or take a drive up and down the streets. But it's funny, I mean, we need to the three of us need to have a whole conversation on the difference between, towns and others, because that's one of them. They don't come inside of town limits to help with the issue. And I was point blank with the gentleman that visited council. I said, the problem is in town. So what you're saying is we don't deal with the problem where the problem is. It just didn't make any sense to me.
Yarmouth is not the only community, of course, Miramooth, that's having problem with deer and people not treating deer as wild animals. Uh, and that's Truro, and I know that you and the council have been watching that community for some time. So how are they, kind of an approach are they taking?
Yeah, I think, and it's funny you asked that because council we just got access. We haven't even had time to go through it, but access to the reports from Truro with regard to their work around the deer population. So they are doing, as I understand it, they're doing a call. Um, they have open space in Truro, so they can do the bow hunting, for example. I want to say they were thinking, I think the goal was around 20 deer and they got 16, you know. Well, there's 16 in my backyard every night. So come on down. But it's a start, and it's a start. And I guess I always think, I mean, I don't know what deer are eating, but all that food, I mean, people are hungry. Maybe I shouldn't say that, it gets me in trouble, but I mean, it shouldn't go to waste. There's a lot of hungry people.
I watch some quote unquote reality TV, and one of the ones I like to watch is the Alaska State Troopers, and when they have I guess incident, you want to call it that, with moose or whatever, then they donate that to the
Yeah.
local food bank or whichever. I don't know if that's an option in this sort of scenario or not, but surely if as long as the deer aren't diseased or the like, that it, there should be an option for the meat.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people are out hunting for deer meat, that sustains them for a whole year. So you're right. As long as there's a way to tell if they're diseased, and you wouldn't eat that. But there's a lot of opportunity there. I hate to say opportunity, but people are deer hunting during the season anyway.
I know there's a lot of deer out at the airport, and I mean, would that not be jurisdictional, if that's a word, for
Yeah, that's
TIR?
yeah, that might I think some of the airport properties in town, I think most is in the municipality, but it's an option. I don't know what the municipality
Got to be
is
a whole
doing,
herd of
or
them out there. I know
oh
that.
gosh, yeah, there's tons of them, tons of them. Yeah, and then the whole birth control thing, right? It
Yeah,
takes time, but we just have to use more than one way to get rid of them,
yeah, yeah, and preferably not on my front bumper.
right?
I grew up in town. You know that I was right down the street,
Yeah,
and
right
there,
on.
for me, there's nothing scarier than driving through town at night.
Yeah,
Pleasant
you're
Street,
right.
upper Pleasant Street towards NSCC and around the back corner there. Even Oak Drive and up on the upper end of Elm Street
Mhm.
by the malls and stuff. I mean, it's scary driving through there,
Wherever.
and I
It is.
grew up in town. I know the roads, but
Mhm.
not used to having a deer jump out in front of me, let alone a family of them.
That's right, and they do, and it's funny because, out there by NSCC, I don't know what it is, probably because there's such a big field across the street, but the reports of the deer getting hit there is, it's off the charts, you know?
Well, hopefully we'll be able to come up with something. Maybe the reports from Truro will give you some guidance and we can look forward to something happening there.
Here's hoping,
Yeah.
yes.
So we'll go from one nuisance to another, and that's the early appearance of pothole season.
Listen, because everybody loves hot potholes so much, we just make sure we have our share of them.
But you have a solution, and this has been in for a while. I don't remember exactly how long, but See Click Fix. Tell us about that.
Yes. Yeah. So see, click, fix, and it's those three words all together. You would Google see, click, fix Yarmouth, and you just go on and you report them. And you know what? There's 70 kilometers of roads in Yarmouth. I say this every opportunity I get as well. If you live outside of the town, the vast majority of your roads are looked after by the province. When you live inside of town limits, um, you pay 100% for your roads. So town taxpayers are paying for those roads. There's not enough money to pave them all and fix them all, every year. It's absolutely impossible. Um, so we just ask people, if you see a pothole or, just report it. The team will go out, take a look. They will fix it as quickly as they can, but weather permitting as well. You just can't fill a hole in the middle of weather like this because it'll be empty by the end of the day. So,
Yeah.
we are so sorry. Nobody wants potholes. We all have vehicles, but it's the weather here. It's cold one minute, it's warm the next, and it just heaves the pave, causes potholes, and off we go. It's just awful. Pothole season is nasty.
It is, and of course, living in the county, I hear it all the time when we talk about the back roads and the
Hmm.
necessity of having them graded and rutting and everything else. And that was just one of those things. My grandmother and grandfather Taggart used to live out lakeside, and that was a dirt road at the time. I think it's all paved now, but at the time it was dirt. So I mean, come the February thaw, March, man, it was rough. I lost a couple of
Yeah.
mufflers going through there.
Yeah, so you don't know on those back roads that are not paved. I have a friend out in Lake Jesse that, I like to visit the cottage, but one day I go out and it's frozen and everything's great. 2 days later I go and I'm up to my hubcaps in mud.
Yep.
So, it's difficult. I mean, it's bad enough in town. And don't forget, in town, we have 7,000 people. I keep bragging about that because I'm excited. But but every weekday that population goes up to 24,000.
Indeed.
So it's everybody from this entire region is driving on these roads, and and trucks and everything else, and they take a beating. So we just fix things as quickly as we can. The team's on it. We all hate potholes, but it's pothole season. So
Some of the bigger craters are in like the mall parking lots and like that, and that's not your responsibility, right?
no, absolutely not. That's private. That's private property. Ours is just the streets.
I just wanted to toss in that mini civics lesson for just in case somebody's wondering.
Yeah, I don't control the parking lots. I'm not the boss of them.
The issue of amalgamation has been moved from front burner to back burner, front burner to back burner.
Hmm.
It seems now
Yeah.
it's moving more towards the front burner. The municipality of Yarmouth has accepted an invitation from the town of Yarmouth to sit down and talk about amalgamation. Now, it's not the first time that
Hmm.
the two municipal units have sat down. So first of all, you pro are you pro amalgamation, Mayor Mood?
Oh boy, Gary, you don't mince your words.
Well, Steve Murphy's retired, right? So you know
That's right.
he
Now it's Gary 101.
now it's
Woohoo!
Gary.
That's right. So you know what? I can't answer that question like most people. I'm pro amalgamation. I'm pro consolidation, I should say. Um, coming together as one unit, but it has to look a certain way. There you just can't say let's get together. There's questions that have to be asked and answered, and I think most people ask questions, but they're not questions that should be answered by us. Will taxes go up? Well, you know what? Taxes always go up. So the answer is yes, but not because of consolidation. You pay for the services that you get. So if you're in a back road in the country, you don't have street lights, you're not paying for that service. You're not paying for a water service if you have a well, those types of things. So
In the same vein, when we look at the Mariner Center, um, rumor has it that the municipality of Argyle wants to be a full-fledged partner of that now. That's
yes,
good news.
it is very good news. They did pass that motion. So to be clear, we should all be one unit. There's no question. There's no question. And when people ask me, why do you believe that's the case? Because everybody has a different answer. We have so much that we could accomplish here. And when you have to get 3 units together to try to get agreement on stuff, it takes years when it should take months. And that's not fair for the people. It really isn't. And everything we do affects each other. I mean, every weekday, the town is filled with, folks from the entire region. We are the regional center. There's an expectation of that. But how many people say to me, gosh, I wish I could vote in town. I spend most of my time in town. That's where I shop. That's where I work. It's where I get my groceries. That's where I do my recreation. I'm always in town, but I don't have a vote. So, there's those things. People want to be able to have a voice in the place that they spend the most time in. So hundreds of questions, but Gary, the answer to your question is yes, as long as it's done right.
And you brought up a good point about, people want to have a voice, but you've expanded out attendance into some of your council committees to include people from the counties, have you not?
Yeah, some of them. Some of them. I mean, sometimes we don't even look to see where folks are from because for example, communities in bloom. I mean, if you live out in the county, you care about as much about what the town looks like and how it feels. So things like that. Yeah, I mean, people spend their time in town. They need to have a voice.
Want to ask you about Mariners on Main. It was very sad when we lost the YMCA, but I was just amazed at how quickly municipal governments came together, the community came together, and look now, it's just amazing what has transpired. You must have been very impressed.
Yeah, this is one thing that we're really, really very proud of. And again, I know it's for the whole region, but people are always in town. If you want to drop your kids off for swimming, you can go get your groceries. There's benefits to, location. As they say, location, location, location. But, Gary, to your point about, people getting on board, our council, how do I want to say this the right way, our staff, so our CAO and our staff, they bring facts to the table. What council's job is not to be experts on the facts, is to take those facts and add the values of the community to the facts and come out with a decision. And I mean, it couldn't have been clearer that the community valued the thought of Mariners on Main. They need a place to exercise, to come together in a safe place. And I'll extend that and I'll say, look what happened with the splash park. People come to councils all the time and to governments with their hands out, for all the money. And we said, we'll give you a little bit of the money, but you know what? You've got this. You know exactly what you want, what the community needs. Take it and run with it. And look where they are. I mean, just last week I did a keynote for all of Saskatchewan's municipalities on community engagement, and I used the Splash Park and Mariners on Main as two examples, shining examples of when the community believes in it, it happens. So that's where we are.
Well, we know that COVID kicked everybody in the shorts for the last 2 years and has been a huge distraction against all of the other, core initiatives, I guess, if you want to call it that, for municipal, provincial, and federal. So now that things sort of seem, and I don't want to jinx it, oh my God, but sort of seem like there's some light at the end of the tunnel. What are council's priorities for 2022 that we can look forward to?
I think you can look forward to more of the same. We want to make sure that the town is, alive and vibrant and drawing people in. And the Mariner Center is certainly top of list. Like, let's get going on that. That's right at the funding stage now. So not much we can do about it. But I will say that the Mariner Center did just put up on Mariners on Main and in the center itself, beautiful diagrams of the future project, so people can take a peek at that. We've always got a lot on our plate, but just moving the town forward, doing it fiscally responsibly, and see what comes up next.
Mayor Mood, most municipal units, cities and towns made a requirement for their employees that they be vaccinated and or have proof of vaccination. I know you can't go into a lot of detail because it's a personnel issue. Can you give us a sense of the level of compliance with that?
Oh, huge. Yes, huge. Yeah, there's no issue there.
And like I said, with 2022 upon us now, we're almost into the first, almost at the end of the first quarter of the year. What capital projects have you got on the slate for this coming year? What can we expect? Are we looking at some more storm sewer projects, or are we looking for some upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant? What have you got on the slate?
Gosh, I'd have to take a look. So budget, you're right. We're almost at the end of the first quarter. We've not started our budget. We've just gone over preliminaries around how the process will work. So we will take a look at the budget. Probably over the next month, we would have some better answers. But making sure that the funds are there for the Mariner Center expansion. Mariners on Main, what are they going to need? So we want to keep those types of things going. The ferry terminal project. I mean, this is just phase one that we've done, and that was
Right.
$10 million. So we may be looking at things like that, but there's always there's just so much to spend money on. I would say that one of the things that we've spent money on, obviously the storm and the water separation. I'm not sure where we are right now with that, but the downtown is I want to say it's done for now, because we had a plan I think that was written in 2009 before my time. We put it on the table, opened it up, and we took the steps. So the downtown looks great. It feels great. We've done our job there. So it's time to look to other things. Just put our heads together and say what's next.
Well, certainly it's an invitation for us to catch up with you, mid-year and just see how things are going.
Yes, I would love to come back and chat.
Mayor Mood, it's always a delight to talk with you, and we thank you so much for your time, and we're going to chat again.
Yes, absolutely. And I do. I love this. Quinn, make sure you get me on another cooking show because Mama Mood loves to cook. And
I think that's going to be a given. If we get
good.
back into the studio again,
Yeah,
I don't think there's any worry of that. We definitely want to make sure that we do that. Those are
that's
so
good.
much
And
fun.
I know Gary will be a taste tester.
Oh, Gary, yeah, absolutely. Gary's my official taste tester. He is.
Oh
He
gosh,
hasn't complained yet, nor has he fell
no,
over. So I guess that's a
no,
bonus on both sides.
good stuff. I just, on behalf of the town, we just so appreciate what you're doing. It's positive stories. It's uplifting. It's hard times, and people need this. So thank you.
I appreciate that.
Appreciate that. Thanks so much, Pam. I'm Gary Nickerson,
And I'm Quinn Taggart.
and this has been Outside My Window.